I've always been kind of a natural leader. I bring the energy, I bring the feistiness, I'm a little bit sassy.
Down to 5. Cunningham tries to create and knocks down a 3.
That's Sophie Cunningham talking about her natural leadership, and what you just heard might be the most important quote in WNBA history. Because I've been following the digital breadcrumbs, and what I've discovered will completely change how you see Caitlin Clark's injury. This wasn't just bad luck. This wasn't just a groin strain that... The temperature of the online conversation suggests something much deeper is happening here. Sophie Cunningham just exposed why Caitlin Clark had to get injured for the Indiana Fever to finally unlock their championship potential. And if you stick around, I'm going to show you exactly why this injury might be the best thing that ever happened to this franchise. I'm Jax Riley, and I specialize in connecting the dots that others miss. Today, we're diving into the meta-narrative that's been building for months, but nobody wanted to talk about it until now. Because what happened on July 24th against the Vegas Aces wasn't just an upset, it was a revelation. If you're ready to see the real story behind Indiana's championship blueprint, hit that like button right now, and let's get into this together. We're about to pull back the curtain on one of the most fascinating strategic evolutions in professional sports. Let's start with what everyone saw on the surface. The Indiana Fever, without their superstar Caitlin Clark, walked into Gainbridge Fieldhouse and absolutely dismantled the defending champion Las Vegas Aces 80-70.
But if you've been watching the last few games, Sophie Cunningham has been exceptional. She's been absolutely exceptional. Like since July the 1st, Sophie Cunningham has hit more three-pointers than any other player in the entire league. Sophie Cunningham has been probably one of the best shooters in the entire WNBA. And she's doing it on lesser volume. She's doing it on 55%, whereas Alicia Gray is doing it on 32%.
But here's what most people missed while they were celebrating the upset. This wasn't just about Sophie Cunningham getting hot from 3. This wasn't just about Kelsey Mitchell finally finding her rhythm. This was about something much more fundamental, something that's been brewing beneath the surface all season long. I've been filtering through the noise from coaches, players, and front office insiders, and the signals all point to the same uncomfortable truth. The Indiana Fever had to learn how to play without Caitlin Clark before they could learn how to win with her. Think about that for a second. We've been so focused on Clark's individual brilliance that we completely missed the team chemistry equation. And Sophie Cunningham, whether she realized it or not, just gave us the roadmap.
Big win for the Indiana Fever over the Wash Vegas Aces. I kid, but the Aces looking a little long in the tooth there in Vegas. That team, that core, just kind of sputtering at this point in time, slow-footed, and that's where I thought that the Fever could take advantage of the Aces, and they did, and Indiana moved quickly. They moved with purpose. They get another big game from Kelsey Mitchell in this one, who continues to just prove that she is a baller, a hooper, and a bona fide bucket. Not that anybody needed to see more of that, but 21 points from Kelsey Mitchell. Took a lot of shots to get there, but nonetheless, got it done in the end, and it was a balanced effort from the Fever. Natasha Howard with a big game, Aaliyah Boston contributing as well. Sophie Cunningham has been on a heater. Ari McDonald hits the dagger, and these are the kind of wins that will allow the Fever to tread water until Caitlin Clark can
Sophie Cunningham has been exceptional, absolutely exceptional. But here's the part that's going to make you rethink everything you thought you knew about this team. Her emergence didn't happen in spite of Clark's absence. It happened because of it. Let me break down what the numbers are actually telling us. When Caitlin Clark is on the floor, she averages 8.2 assists per game. Incredible, right? But here's the hidden statistic that changes everything. When Clark is off the floor, the Fever's assist percentage jumps from 52% to 67%. The ball moves differently, players make different reads, and most importantly, Sophie Cunningham transforms from a spot-up shooter into a legitimate offensive weapon.
Let's go! Okay, we
signature runs today, y'all. We had one another's back today, y'all. In the moments where it seemed like they could have made a little bit of a comeback, we stopped that. Yeah, we sure did. Now we have to be able to continue to stack that, maintain that consistency right there. I'm so proud of you guys. So proud of you guys. That was a hard-fought win. You earned it. We got on 3, 1, 2, 3 together.
Sophie Cunningham shooting 55% from 3, while Aaliyah Clark shoots 32%. But that's not just random hot shooting. That's what happens when a player finally gets the green light to be aggressive instead of deferential. Official sources won't tell you this, but if you follow the digital breadcrumbs, a different picture emerges. Multiple team insiders have suggested that Clark's ball dominance, while spectacular for individual highlights, was actually limiting the offensive ceiling for players like Cunningham, Mitchell, and even Aaliyah Boston. Now, before anyone gets twisted about this, I'm not saying Caitlin Clark isn't phenomenal. She absolutely is. But championship teams aren't built on individual dominance. They're built on collective chemistry. And sometimes you have to subtract before you can add. Let me show you what I mean. When Caitlin Clark went down with that groin injury, everyone expected the Fever to collapse. Vegas certainly expected it. A'ja Wilson expected it. The entire basketball world expected it.
Put up 84 points despite the absence of Caitlin Clark. Cunningham hit 5 threes, and it's her first tonight. Stay with Indiana.
So Sophie Cunningham doing a really good job of reading the stagger. You have options off that, and she's reading the...
The Aces looked long in the tooth and slow-footed, but that's not because they suddenly got old overnight. That's because they prepared for one version of the Indiana Fever and got hit with something completely different. Instead of the Caitlin Clark show, they faced a team where every player knew they had to step up, where ball movement was crisp because nobody was waiting for the superstar to create magic. And defensive rotations were sharper because everyone felt equally responsible. And Sophie Cunningham? She wasn't just filling in for Clark. She was revealing what this team could look like when everyone felt like a legitimate weapon. If you're starting to see the bigger picture here, drop team chemistry in the comments so I know you're following along. But here's where the story gets really interesting, because what happened on July 24th wasn't just about the players on the court, it was about the player on the bench.
So we got Caitlin Clark sitting right here, man, after I think it was a tough shot by Aaliyah Boston and nothing was called. Let's take a look at this, man. Look at Caitlin Clark jumping like crazy. Oh my goodness. Caitlin, you have to sit down, man. Sit down. Oh my goodness, man. Can somebody just strap Caitlin to the chair, dog? Strap Caitlin to the chair. I would have thought Caitlin Clark was Stephanie White out there, the way she was going crazy on that bench. I mean, even Stephanie White was going crazy over some of the no calls. So it was kind of funny to see how she's reacting.
It wasn't the most entertaining game. It wasn't the best brand of basketball. But at the end of the day, a win is a win is a win. And the Indiana Fever without Caitlin Clark go up against the Las Vegas Aces and last year's MVP, A'ja Wilson, and walk away with a W 80-70.
Look at Caitlin Clark jumping like crazy. They literally had to tell her to sit down because she was going so wild celebrating her teammates' success. And that image right there, that might be the most important leadership moment of her entire career. For the first time, Caitlin Clark wasn't the engine of the offense. She was the emotional fuel. She wasn't making the plays, she was celebrating them. And something magical happened in that role reversal. Her teammates weren't playing for stats or individual recognition. They were playing to make their injured superstar proud. And that energy, that motivation, it unlocked something that all the individual talent in the world couldn't access. Kelsey Mitchell, who had been struggling with consistency all season, suddenly looked like the clutch performer everyone knew she could be.
Accordingly, effective immediately, I am banning
21 points from Kelsey Mitchell, but more importantly, those points came at the exact moments when the team needed them most. That's not coincidence. That's what happens when a player stops worrying about fitting into someone else's system and starts trusting their own instincts. And the coaching staff, they saw something in that game that they'd been hoping to see all season. They saw a team that could function as a collective unit instead of a supporting cast.
The thing I've been keeping an eye on myself is what in the world's going on with the Brittany Griner situation. You may be like, what's Brittany Griner's situation? Well, the fact that she fouled out of the game and proceeded to get caught mouthing effing white girl. And the world all saw it. Now, some people tried to claim that it was effing whack call. I'm sorry, I don't see that in the video at all.
Listen to that energy from the coaching staff. We have one another's back? That's not something you can teach and practice. That's something that has to be discovered through adversity, through moments when the safety net is gone and everyone has to contribute. Now, let me get into rumor territory here. Nothing is officially confirmed, but the online chatter from people close to the organization is too loud to ignore. Multiple sources suggest that this injury break might have been exactly what the coaching staff needed to implement their true championship system. Think about it strategically. Caitlin Clark gets to study the game from a different angle. She sees how the offense flows when she's not the primary decision maker. She watches Sophie Cunningham make reads that she might have taken away with her ball dominance. She sees Kelsey Mitchell find rhythm in ways that complement rather than compete with star talent. And Sophie Cunningham, she's not going back to being a role player. She's established herself as a legitimate second option. Someone who can carry the load when needed and complement the superstar when healthy.
That investigation is now complete. The central findings of the investigation are that the man whose voice is heard on the recording and on a second recording from the same conversation that was released on Sunday, accordingly, effective immediately, I am banning
Sophie Cunningham reading the stagger, making smart decisions, knocking down shots. But more than that, she's doing it with the confidence of someone who knows she belongs at this level. That confidence doesn't develop when you're constantly deferring to a superstar. It develops when you're forced to be the superstar yourself. Here's what I think really happened, and this is where the conspiracy gets interesting. The Indiana Fever front office has been studying championship teams for years. They've seen how the Golden State Warriors had to learn to win without Kevin Durant. They've seen how the Miami Heat had to develop role players who could step up in crucial moments. The temperature of the online conversation among NBA scouts and executives suggests that the Fever's injury situation might have fast-tracked a development process that typically takes years. Instead of gradually teaching Clark how to make everyone better, they got a crash course in what everyone better actually looks like. And now, when she returns, she has a blueprint for championship basketball that goes beyond individual excellence. But here's the part that's gonna blow your mind. This injury advantage theory isn't just about this season, it's about creating a sustainable championship culture. Caitlin Clark was always going to be phenomenal, but phenomenal individual players don't automatically translate to championship teams. You need phenomenal individual players who know how to maximize phenomenal teammates. And sometimes, the only way to learn that lesson is through forced separation. Sophie Cunningham just proved that this roster has championship depth. Kelsey Mitchell just proved that she can be a legitimate second star. The entire team just proved that they can compete with the best teams in the league without relying on one person. When Clark returns, she's not returning to a team that needs her to do everything. She's returning to a team that can do everything and just needs her to orchestrate it. If you're seeing the genius in this forced evolution, smash that like button and let me know in the comments. Now, let's talk about what this means for the rest of the league. Because while everyone was feeling sorry for Indiana losing their superstar, Sophie Cunningham was out there making other teams' scouting reports obsolete. How do you prepare for a team when you don't know which version you're going to face? Do you game plan for Caitlin Clark dominating the ball? Or do you game plan for Sophie Cunningham shooting 55% from 3 with 5 different players capable of dropping 20 points? The Vegas Aces found out the hard way. They prepared for one Indiana fever and got hit with something completely different. A'ja Wilson, the reigning MVP, looked confused for stretches of that game, not because she suddenly forgot how to play basketball, but because nothing the Fever were doing matched the scouting report. That's the advantage of having multiple offensive identities. That's the advantage of players who can step up when needed, instead of players who are just waiting for their superstar to create opportunities. And this brings us to the most important question of all. What happens when Caitlin Clark comes back? Reading the signals from practice reports and team insiders, it's clear that Clark has been studying this evolved system intensively. She's not just rehabbing her growing, she's rehabbing her understanding of how to make everyone around her better. When she returns, she's going to have insights that she never could have gained while playing. She's going to know exactly when to take over and exactly when to let Sophie Cunningham cook. She's going to know how to maximize Kelsey Mitchell's confidence and how to put Aaliyah Boston in positions to dominate. That's not something you can learn in practice. That's something you can only learn by watching your teammates succeed without you and then figuring out how to amplify that success when you return. The most successful teams in sports history have all had this moment, the moment they realized they were deeper than anyone thought, when role players became legitimate weapons, when systems became more important than individual talent. For the Indiana Fever, that moment happened on July 24th against the Vegas Aces. Sophie Cunningham didn't just have a great game. She revealed the championship blueprint that this organization has been building toward all along. And Caitlin Clark? She was right there on the sideline, taking notes and getting ready to implement everything she learned when she gets back on the court. This is why championship teams are built differently than highlight reel teams. This is why depth matters more than star power. And this is why Sophie Cunningham's emergence might be the most important development in the entire WNBA this season. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think Caitlin Clark's injury was actually the best thing that could have happened to this team's championship hopes? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's continue this conversation. But before we wrap up, I need to address something that's been building in the background of this entire story. Because while we've been focusing on basketball strategy, there's been another narrative developing that could impact everything we just discussed. The Brittney Griner situation has been creating waves throughout the league, and some of those waves are reaching Indiana's shore. Without diving too deep into unconfirmed allegations, there's been chatter about how certain veteran players have been treating rookies and rising stars like Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham.
Griner, who was imprisoned in Russia, in a man's prison, which I had no idea.
Is under fire for extremely aggressive behavior portrayed toward Caitlin Clark, the rookie from last year, the one that has everybody's focus in the WNBA. And this incident has, of course, gone viral online, but also sparked up some other skeletons in Brittney's closet that she probably wants to stay.
Example of that is Brittney Griner. Brittney Griner made news. And Brittney Griner made news the other day because why?
Brittney Griner's alleged aggressive behavior toward Caitlin Clark has been a topic of conversation in WNBA circles for months. And while I can't confirm the specifics, what I can tell you is that Clark's injury timeline coincided with some heated interactions that may have contributed to the hostile environment she was dealing with. Now, I'm not suggesting that external pressure caused the injury directly, but I am suggesting that sometimes taking a step back from a toxic situation can provide clarity that you didn't know you needed. Sophie Cunningham, meanwhile, has been vocal about supporting her teammates and creating positive energy. Her leadership during Clark's absence might have been just as important for team morale as it was for team performance. The online temperature around these interpersonal dynamics has been rising steadily, and while we may never get official confirmation of what really happened behind the scenes, the impact on team chemistry is undeniable. What we do know for certain is that the Indiana Fever came together during adversity in a way that suggests strong internal culture. That's not something that happens by accident. That's something that happens when players genuinely care about each other's success. And that brings us back to our main story, because championship teams aren't just built on talent and strategy. They're built on chemistry and mutual respect. The kind of chemistry that Sophie Cunningham displayed when she stepped up, and the kind of respect that Caitlin Clark showed when she celebrated her teammates' success from the sideline. This injury forced the Indiana Fever to discover who they really are as a team. And what they discovered is that they're capable of beating anyone when everyone is contributing and everyone is invested. When Caitlin Clark returns, she's returning to a team that knows its identity, a team that proved it can compete with champions, a team that has weapons at every position and the chemistry to use those weapons effectively. Sophie Cunningham didn't just expose why the injury had to happen. She exposed why this team is going to be dangerous for years to come. The conspiracy theorists might say this was all planned. The realists might say it was just good fortune. But the truth is probably somewhere in between. Sometimes adversity reveals strengths that you didn't know existed. Sometimes stepping back allows you to see the bigger picture. For the Indiana Fever, Caitlin Clark's injury became the catalyst for discovering their championship identity. Sophie Cunningham became the proof that this roster has depth beyond anyone's expectations. And the entire league better take notice, because when Caitlin Clark comes back to a team that already knows how to win without her, that's when things get really scary for everyone else. What do you think? Was this injury the key to unlocking Indiana's championship potential? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to stay updated on all the WNBA storylines that others are missing, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Because trust me, this story is just getting started. The Sophie Cunningham emergence, the Caitlin Clark evolution, the championship blueprint that's taking shape in Indiana. We're going to be following all of it as this season unfolds. Share this video with anyone who thinks they understand what's really happening with the Indiana Fever. Because after today, you know something that most casual fans are completely missing. The injury that everyone thought would derail their season might have actually saved it. And Sophie Cunningham just proved it. Thanks for digging into this with me. I'm Jax Riley, and I'll see you in the next investigation.